Hi, it's Mike Thornton from Pro Tools Expert, and today I'm joined by Mark Franken from Sounds in Sync, and we've a new version of Ediload, which is a conforming software package to enable us to conform source high-quality audio to an existing picture edit. But Ediload version 3 brings us more as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. What I wanted to show you today was a new version, Ediload 3, which gives us the option to be able to compare lists within the application, as opposed to conforming, as you explained, where we are conforming location WAV files to match the picture. But before I get into the new features of being able to compare the lists, for your people that aren't familiar with Ediload, the other features that it can do, apart from conforming, is we can also export a picture cut track and scene change track where we can put cuts on the picture change points when we have a picture list loaded.
So we can see on your Pro Tools session, the third track down, in fact, is this picture cut track, isn't it? So it's effectively dummy Pro Tools regions with effectively region or clip names which relate to what the pictures are at that point, and also presumably show us where there's a picture edit?
Yes, correctly. These are all the picture edits, which make it a lot simpler and quicker to actually cut your atmospheres, which are down on these tracks here. And so you can also generate a scene change track. If this was a drama show, you could create cuts on the scene boundaries. You can also create a scene change track, which ties in with our ADR queuing application, EdyQ. So a couple of other things we can do previously with Ediload. You can also create a MIDI file which drives our application Edy prompt, so you can display video cues for mixers and Foley artists, so that can actually cue them visually on screen when picture changes happen or scene changes happen. It's a very powerful application to be able to manipulate, edit data, and effectively create your own workflows depending on what your requirements are.
So what do we get in version 3?
So with version 3, what we get is this new compare window. But before I go into the details of that, I'll just quickly show you what the process of reconforming is within this session for people that aren't that familiar with reconforming. So here we've got a version 4 video that one of our clients, Lookprint, graciously allowed us to use for this demonstration. And what we did was record the dialogue here on these two tracks and lay up sound effects and atmoses for these pictures. And these pictures are all shot mute, so all they provided us was the image and the music. And what we did was edit these tracks and mix them and provide them with the bounce. A week later they came round and of course they says, oh, we've made a few picture changes to this and you go, oh yeah, here we go again.
Indeed.
So as you'll see in the version 4 pictures, the first shot looks like that. We go to toggle over to the version 6 pictures. We've got a couple of extra shots, and here's the first shot that was in the version 4. Now, because these footage is all shot mute, we don't have a guide track to be able to use as a reference to see where shots have come and moved to. So we're actually relying on being able to compare the actual vision footage. Now, luckily with this, we were able to get a couple of EDLs of the picture edit, and here's the vision EDL of the version 4 pictures.
Yeah, so the EDLs can often be basically a text file, so you can almost read them as a text file. Obviously the different formats of EDL, but often the very simple ones are, you say, are just a simple text file. And
yes.
So you can basically, presumably with the compare window, you're going to compare the old EDL with the new EDL.
Yes, correct, Mike. This is a CMX 3600 EDL, but Ediload will import EDLs from Final Cut or Media Composer, any range of formatted EDL files which are in a text document, including the new file 32 EDLs. But like you say, we have to compare these files, so we just open up this new compare window. We create a new project called Poster Candy, and setting it to 24 frames. And what this new window allows you to do is drag and drop several files at once. it automatically lifts out the version number from the EDL file name. And in this instance, we won't set a group name. We'll load them directly into the root folder here. What we can also do is save all these settings. They're all default settings at the moment. Also save these two files as a single file.
So you haven't got to go rummaging around your computer looking for the original EDLs, because they're now going to be saved in a dedicated folder, effectively, that you can presumably append to as version 3, version 4 comes along. You can continue to add to that and resave it.
Exactly, and move that between machines or whatever you need. So yeah, it's a convenient file to have everything loaded in. And then we need to do is select the old version and new version lists. Now you might have several old versions there, but for this one we'll just select old and new here, and we can then compare the lists, and there, just like that, it's worked out what the differences are between the lists. We've got 9 events or 8 changes, and with the version 3 Ediload we can also display an overview window.
Wow, so you can really see exactly what's gone on. So presumably the white sections on the source are clips that are no longer used in the new one?
Yeah, precisely.
And then the black ones are clips that have appeared in the new version?
Correct, yeah, they're new footage that you'll have to lay up new sounds for. And you can also see here that it's actually, they've trimmed down the old version and tightened up the edits.
Yeah.
So what we can do now is actually apply this change list to our Pro Tools session automatically. And to do that, we'll just hop back to Pro Tools, and first we'll group the tracks that need to be reconformed. And we'll just go Apple G, and we'll call this Recon. And so we're going to reconform the old video, the automation, and all the audio and any automation that are within those tracks. And so the other thing we need to do as part of reconforming is we need to move this version 4 material out of the way so that we can
push it down the timeline so that you've got some space to put the new version back where it belongs.
Correct, yeah, exactly. And Ediload can do this for you automatically. All we do is, to start the reconform process, is hit Pro Tools Reconform. I will close that compare window. And then we can tell it to, we could nudge it 1 hour, 2 hours, depending on how long the program is, but because this is only less than a minute long, we can just nudge the source material up half an hour.
So the half an hour nudge is a really neat thing, because obviously with film, where you've got reels, you tend to work a reel at a time, which is basically 20 minutes long. You can effectively put your temporary holding section in that gap, because of course reels tend to be laid out 1 hour for reel 1, 2 hours at reel 2, 3 hours reel 3, and so on. So you've got that space between the reels. So being able to nudge up half an hour rather than having to nudge up a whole hour means that you can slot your sort of holding pattern in the gaps between the reels.
Yeah, precisely, Mike. Yeah, and it just means that when you do repairs or you need to go back to your original version for, say, reel 1, it's only half an hour down the timeline rather than, say, 7 or 8 hours down the timeline.
Yeah.
So now we'll just go OK with that, and then we get a list of things to set up in Pro Tools just to confirm everything's ready to go. And then we just hit continue, and Ediload just asks you to confirm where the source material starts and ends, or just to make sure it's going to grab enough of the timeline. We just hit move source, and then here it goes, it's moved that version 4 of material down to 1 hour 30. And what I'll do is I'll just zoom in to the 1 hour mark so we can see what Ediload is going to do in terms of pasting the version 6. And when we just hit reconform all events, and just during this process, make sure we don't click the mouse or hit any keystrokes.
And that's presumably because Ediload is actually using keystrokes to do this process, which is why we grouped all the tracks together in the first place.
Yes, precisely. So it's sending those keystrokes to Pro Tools and reconforming your pitches, your automation, and those audio clips to match those new version 6 pitches. And here we go. We can, for instance, just click on this shot here, and we can toggle between the version 6 and version 4 pitches, and we see we've got an exact match here. And playing the version 6 pitches, I can just say play here, and you can hear. all those sounds from version 4 now sync up with version 6 pictures, and we've got a shot here which is new, which we'd have to lay up some new sounds for. So it's a very quick way of getting everything perfectly in sync, and then you can just spot through the tab through.
So yeah, there'll be a few points where there's a cut taken place that maybe is messed up a crossfade or such, as you've got a certain amount of tidying up to do.
Correct. But at least you know everything's going to be in sync with the new picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's still an awful lot less work than having to manually work out what the offsets were and drag it up and down the Pro Tools session. And so, yeah, that is just so nice to watch it, see it actually just go ahead and do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the, in a nutshell, how the reconforming works with Ediload. So what I wanted to do was also show a couple of new things that we've put into this compare window.
Because you can compare more than one EDL. So yeah, here you've got a series of versions of a film. You've got Reel 1, Reel 2, and you've got them grouped in folders, which looks like a reverse date format. So that's what they were on that date. So the 1st of June 2012, and then you've got another one, 27th, effectively 23rd of July 2012.
Correct.
And then a one, so you've got those laid out, and so presumably we can compare all of those all at once.
Yeah, exactly. By grouping these EDLs into the folders, it not only puts them in a convenient container, but you'll see when Ediload actually loads these up, it's just batching, loading all of these 7 EDLs at once. It defaults what we call the group or group name to the folder name, and it's lifted out the roll number and version number directly out of the file names. So we can just hit load, and then it's loaded up all those EDLs into the one group. Just to save time, what I can do is load up, as they say,
Here's one we did earlier.
And here we've got the 3 groups loaded up. We can just expand all 3. And previously what we did was say select one EDL list, an old and new version. What we can do now is select a whole group. So we can compare this group of lists to this group of lists, hit compare, and hey presto, it's found 241 changes.
But this is the magic bit for me here, where you actually do the overview, because you can see what's happened. You can see that some stuff is actually, there's green now in the Reel 1 area, which was obviously, I can't quite tell whether it was Reel 3 or Reel 5 stuff, but you can see that there's been significant changes taken place. And visually you can see an overview of exactly what's happened just from that overview.
Yeah, and you also get these colors in the actual reel names here. So this is why it's important to set the reel names correctly when you load these lists, because then you can see in the change list what session effectively or what you have to load as the source. So that's a really powerful thing of Ediload, is to be able to select groups of lists. And another thing you can do is you can actually select several groups of sources. And what this does is Ediload will first compare these target lists to the most recent version of sources, and any
presumably sometimes in saying that in the second revision a scene might have been dropped that's in the first version, and it's been reinstated back into version 3. So presumably it can pick up and content from the earlier versions and compare that and bring that into the revised session.
Yeah, precisely. So it automatically finds dropped material, and you can select up to 6 old versions and it will automatically find them, and then you can see in the role name of your change list exactly which version it's picked them up from. Another new thing in Ediload is, or something that was part of EdiTrace, was to be able to compare several vision layers of an edit list, and we can do that.
So why would we get different vision layers? Is this all to do with video effects and stuff?
In the vision edit, if they've composited shots and put different elements on different layers, rather than actually flattening that information down into one file, it's actually better if you get a vision EDL from all the different layers. And Ediload's comparing algorithm, it actually prioritizes which layers it compares first, and so you get a much better comparison between the lists.
Yeah, because we may well have sound effects that have been triggered off one of those layers.
Correct. If you've got EDLs from several layers, what you can do is you can check this box here to combine multiple vision EDLs. And what that will then do is load those EDLs into the one edit list as such and automatically handle that for you.
So again, it does it all in the background, but so it keeps it clear visually, but it's handling all of that for us in the background.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the most powerful features of this new compare window, which we didn't have in the EdiTrace website, was, I'll just show you here, the edit data of this particular list. It's lifted out the role name and clip name data from the list, but we've also got a new field here called the match name. And what that contains is either the role name, the clip name, or a cleaned up version of the clip name when this happens to be a visual effects shot. And with Ediload actually setting this match name as you load, it doesn't actually have to decide and clean up these clip names each time you compare the list. And these settings here are actually set in the match settings window here, where we can either go all role name, clip name, or...
Yeah, so we can set up quite powerful sets of rules to make sure that cleaning up works well. And I see you've got a test setting button as well, so you can check that your settings will actually work without trashing a project.
Well, yeah, it loads up all the events of all the edit lists in the actual project at the moment. And it will actually show you here that it's actually stripping out the version information from the clip name correctly between the visual effects shot. And so what this, for you as a sound editor, means is if you lay up sound effects for a visual effects shot and those visual effects shots get updated, Ediload will be able to track those shots and see them as the same shot, and you'll then be able to retain those sounds that you laid up, and they won't get lost every time the visual effects get updated.
Yeah, that's really great.
And so, yeah, they are basically the main new features within the compare window. And what I can do lastly is just show you Ediload running in Windows.
So is running Windows something new to version 3, or is that something that was in version 2?
No, it's always been there.
So yeah, we've got the same sort of compare windows, all the same stuff that we just saw in the Mac version.
Precisely. And this project that we saved in Mac, we can load up in Windows.
Yeah.
You can select the old new version, and here you can see it runs exactly the same as the Mac version.
That's really good. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you've got editors working on the Mac platform or the PC platform, just as we do with Pro Tools. If one person's working on Windows, you can use Ediload and Pro Tools on Windows and then move a project across without any compatibility issues and work on a Mac version and vice versa.
Exactly. So if you'd like to try Ediload version 3 out, it can be downloaded from the Sounds and Sync website, from our download page, either the Mac or Windows versions.
And how long will the free trial work for? Is it 14 days?
Oh no, it is 3 days, but if you need longer, you can just contact us via our contact page and give us your iLock user ID, and we will be more than happy to provide an extended trial license for it.
So very much it is the old adage with any software, try before you buy.
Exactly.
So what about existing version 2 owners? Have you got some sort of upgrade route to get to version 3?
Yes, there certainly is. Well, if you upgrade before the end of November 2013, you'll get a free upgrade to version 3. So yes, now's the time to upgrade and get these great new features.
But of course, if you haven't got Ediload at all, here on Pro Tools Expert, we're offering you a very, very interesting deal. We have got a deal where you can buy Ediload version 3 for 50% off for the next 2 weeks. So if you haven't got Ediload, if any of this has whetted your appetite and you need to be able to conform and or reconform audio, you're working in documentary, working in films, working in drama, and you need these sorts of tools, then we are offering Ediload version 3 at a 50% discount for the next 2 weeks. So there we go. Well, Mark, thank you very much for taking us through what Ediload can do, and especially all the new features in Ediload version 3.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Mike. Thank you.